When I found $500,000 hidden under my husband's car seat, my entire life crumbled in seconds. My name is Barbara. I'm 75 years old today, and I'm going to tell you the most painful story of my life. A story that destroyed me, that made me question everything I believed in, but that also taught me the true meaning of dignity and courage. This story happened over 40 years ago, but even today when I close my eyes, I can smell that brown paper envelope. I can feel my hands shaking, my heart racing, and that horrible sensation that the ground was opening up beneath my feet. Before I continue, I wanted to ask something of you who are listening to me now. If you're enjoying this story, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel to hear more life stories like this one, and tell me here in the comments where you're watching from, which city, which state. I love knowing that people from all over the country are listening to me. Tell me. Come on, do this kindness for this grandma here. Well, let's go. I need to go back in time, back to the year 1978. I was 28 years old at the time. I was still a young woman full of dreams, full of energy. I had just completed 8 years of marriage to Walter. 8 years that until that fateful Saturday, I thought were the best years of my life. Walter and I met in 1968 at a summer dance here in our small town in rural Ohio. I was 18 years old, wearing a light blue dress that my mother had made for me. I remember it even today. It was satin with a white ribbon at the waist. I thought I was the prettiest girl at the dance that night. And Walter, my God, Walter was the most elegant young man I had ever seen. He was 24 years old, black hair, combed with pomade to the side, wearing gray dress pants and an impeccable white shirt. He worked as a driver for a transportation company in town, Bennett Trucking Company. It was a big company that hauled goods to Chicago, to New York, all over the country. He asked me to dance. I remember they were playing Elvis on the little radio someone had brought. The song was Jailhouse Rock. We danced and danced and danced. He was polite, clean, treated me with a respect I had never seen in any other young man. At the end of the night, he asked to walk me home. My father allowed it, but only because the house was close, 2 blocks from the hall. We started dating. Walter would pick me up every Sunday to go to 10 o'clock Mass. Afterwards, we would go get ice cream at Joe's Ice Cream Parlor, which was on Main Street. He always ordered pistachio. I always ordered strawberry. He was hardworking, responsible. Everyone in town spoke well of him. My father loved Walter. My mother always said I was lucky to find such a good, honest young man. We got married in January 1970. It was a simple wedding, but beautiful, at the main church with Mass at 9 in the morning. I wore my Aunt Susan's wedding dress. My mother had it completely altered for me. Walter looked handsome in his navy blue suit. The reception was at my parents' house in the backyard. There was cake, sweets that the neighbors made, and my Uncle Arthur brought his accordion and entertained everyone. It was one of the happiest days of my life. We went to live in a small rented house on Maple Street near the church. It was a small house, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen and a bathroom, but it was ours. I cleaned that house every day until it shined. Walter worked hard, left the house at 6 in the morning and sometimes only returned at 7, 8 at night. But he always came home smiling, always brought me something, a sweet roll, a magazine. Once he brought me red lipstick he had bought in Cleveland. I felt like the most loved woman in the world. In 1971, our first son was born, Michael. Oh, folks, what joy when that boy was born. Walter cried when he held him for the first time, really cried, tears running down his face. He said he was going to give that boy the best of everything, that he was going to work hard so he would never lack for anything, and he kept his word. Walter was a wonderful father. He would come home tired from work and go play with Michael. He would bathe him, change diapers, put the boy to sleep singing those old songs his father used to sing. In 1974, Laura was born, our daughter. Then our family was complete. 2 beautiful, healthy children. We had managed to buy a used car, a light blue Volkswagen Beetle, 1968 model. Walter was very proud of that car. Every weekend, he would wash it. And this is where the strange part of the story begins. At first I thought it was normal. I even thought the care he took with the car was nice. But over time, it became strange, very strange. Every Saturday, without fail, rain or shine, Walter would wake up early and go wash the car. But it wasn't a normal washing, you know. He would spend 4 hours washing that Beetle. 4 hours. He would start at 7 in the morning, take the car out of the garage, put it there in the backyard. Then he would get the bucket, the sponge, the soap, and start. He would wash the entire body, every corner, run his hand over every detail. Then he would get those cloths he kept and dry everything very slowly. Then he would open the doors and clean the seats. He would wipe the dashboard, clean the steering wheel, take out the floor mats, shake them, put them back. Then he would open the trunk, take everything out, clean it, organize it. But what caught my attention most was that he always closed the garage doors. Even when it was hot, even in the 100-degree summer we had here, he would close the doors and stay in there alone with the car for hours. I thought that was weird, but at first I didn't say anything. I thought it was just his habit, I don't know, a quirk. But then other things started happening that gave me chills. When I approached the garage, he would get nervous. If I asked if he needed help, he would say no, kind of abrupt, kind of irritated. If I offered to bring him a glass of water, he would say he was coming in soon, that he didn't need it. And there was another thing. He sweated a lot. Even on cold days, he would come out of that garage with his shirt soaked in sweat, his face red, his hands shaking. I started to find that very strange around 1976, more or less. It had been about 2 years since he had this ritual every Saturday, but that year it seemed to have gotten worse. He was more tense. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and he wasn't in bed. I would go looking and he would be sitting in the kitchen in the dark, smoking a cigarette. He had never been much of a smoker, but he started smoking more and more. I would ask, "Walter, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" He would answer, "Yes, Barbara, I'm just not sleepy. Go back to sleep." But I could see something was wrong. He was different, quieter, more distant. Sometimes I would say something and he wouldn't even hear me. He would be there thinking about God knows what. I would wave my hand in front of his face and he would jump, startled. Once I mentioned it to my mother. She said that men were like that sometimes they got their heads full of work problems, that I shouldn't worry. But it wouldn't leave my mind, especially because our financial life had changed. Walter always earned well as a driver, but there was never much money left over. We would pay the rent, buy food, clothes for the children, and we would break even every month. But for a few years now, he had started coming home with things. Nothing very extravagant, but things we weren't used to having. Once he brought home a brand new radio, one of those modern transistor ones. Another time, he brought a blender for the kitchen. He bought new clothes for himself, new shoes. When I asked where the money had come from, he said he had worked overtime, that he had received a bonus from the company. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Walter was my husband, the father of my children, a hard-working and honest man. At least that's what I thought. Things got worse throughout 1977 and into 1978. The Saturday ritual continued, but Walter was increasingly nervous. He started taking longer trips for the company. Sometimes he would be gone 3-4 days. He said it was work, that he had to haul cargo far away, that he had to wait for it to be unloaded. I understood, or at least I tried to understand, but I started noticing other small things. Sometimes I would find crumpled papers in his pants pocket when I went to wash them. They were papers with numbers, with names I didn't know, with addresses of cities I had never heard of. Once I found a paper that said, Dayton, Chuck's Warehouse, 2 boxes. Another time there was a paper with a name, Joe, and a phone number. I would ask him what it was, and he always had an explanation. He said it was work stuff, client contact, place where he had to pick up cargo. It made sense. It made perfect sense. But that bad feeling didn't go away. It was like there was a voice deep down in my head saying something was very wrong. I tried to ignore it, Tried to convince myself it was all in my head, that I was inventing problems where there weren't any. But I couldn't. And there was one thing that really bothered me. He had started locking things. He would lock the desk drawer he had in the bedroom, lock his suitcase when he came back from a trip, lock the car's glove compartment. And when I asked why he locked everything, he would get irritated. He said it was so the children wouldn't mess with things, wouldn't break anything. But Michael was only 7 years old and Laura was 4. They were obedient children. They never touched their father's things. I started having insomnia. I would lie awake at night thinking, was he having problems at work? Was the company doing badly? Did he owe someone money? My head wouldn't stop. And the worst part was, I had no one to talk to. I couldn't talk to my mother because she would worry. I couldn't talk to my friends because it would seem like I was talking bad about my husband. And if I tried to talk to Walter, he would get angry. He would say I was suspicious of him, that I didn't trust him. That's how we got to that Saturday in June 1978, the Saturday that changed my life forever. The Saturday I discovered who the man I had married really was. It was a Saturday in June 17th, 1978. I will never forget that date. Never. It's engraved in my memory as if it were yesterday. I woke up that morning with a tightness in my chest. I can't explain it right, but it was like my body knew something was going to happen. You know that feeling? When you wake up and feel the day is going to be different, but you don't know if it's going to be good or bad. That was exactly it. Walter had already gotten up. It was 7 in the morning. I looked out the bedroom window and saw he was already out there, starting the usual ritual. The blue beetle stopped in the backyard, him with the bucket in his hand, the hose unrolled. I went to make coffee. I prepared bread with butter for the children. Michael and Laura were still sleeping. It was Saturday. I let them sleep a little longer. I stayed there in the kitchen drinking my coffee, looking out the window. I could see Walter from afar. He washed the car with that exaggerated care as always. He passed the sponge slowly, rinsed, passed it again. I kept watching. I don't know why, but that morning I decided to pay more attention. And that's when I noticed something I had never noticed before. He didn't look at the car while he washed it. I mean, he looked, but it was different. It seemed like his head was somewhere else. He passed the sponge automatically, but his face was tense, worried. He looked around all the time, as if he was afraid someone would show up, and that sweat pouring down. Even though it was a winter morning, cold, he was already sweating. I finished my coffee and went to wake the children. I bathed them, dressed them in house clothes. Laura wanted to play with dolls. Michael wanted to play ball in the backyard, but I didn't let him because his father was washing the car. I put them both to watch television. Some cartoon was on. I don't remember which. It must have been around 9 o'clock when I remembered I needed to get the car registration. It was about to expire, and I had to go pay it on Monday at the DMV. I always kept the documents in a folder that was kept inside the car, in the glove compartment, but that time I didn't find it there. I looked and looked. It wasn't there. Then I thought, did Walter take it out? Is it stored somewhere else? I waited for him to come in for lunch. At noon he came inside, sweaty, tired, as always. He washed his hands, sat down to eat, rice, beans, steak with onions and salad. He ate in silence, barely spoke to the children. He had that closed face. When he finished lunch, he said he was going to take a nap, went to the bedroom and lay down. I stayed in the kitchen washing the dishes, and then I thought, now is the time to look for the documents. I didn't want to bother him sleeping to ask. I went to the garage. The car was there already, all clean, shining. I opened the driver's door. That smell of clean car, of soap, of damp cloth. I opened the glove compartment. Nothing. There was only the car manual and some old maps. I closed it. I looked in the back seat. Nothing there either. Then I thought, did something fall under the seat? Sometimes papers slip, fall, get stuck there. I bent down, ran my hand under the driver's seat, felt something, a bulge. I pulled. It was an envelope, A large envelope, brown paper, one of those office envelopes. It was sealed with tape, heavy, very heavy. My heart started beating faster. What was that? Why was there an envelope hidden under the car seat? I knelt there on the garage floor, holding that envelope, not knowing what to do. Part of me said, "Barbara, open that envelope. You have the right to know what it is." Another part said, "No, that's not right. It's Walter's thing. You can't mess with his things." But curiosity was stronger. Or it wasn't curiosity, it was fear. It was that feeling that finally I was going to discover what was happening, what was leaving my husband that way. What was that secret he had been hiding for years? I tore off the tape. My hand trembled. I opened the envelope. Folks, when I saw what was inside, I was sure I was going to faint. My legs weakened. I had to hold onto the car door to keep from falling to the floor. Money, lots of money, stacks and stacks of bills, $20 bills, $50 bills, $100 bills. It was all organized, divided into little packets tied with rubber bands. I had never in my life seen so much money together. My hands shook so much I almost dropped the envelope. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't breathe right. What was that? Where had that money come from? Why was Walter hiding this under the car seat? I started taking the stacks out of the envelope. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. I lost count. There was a lot of money, a lot. I didn't know how much it was in total, but I knew it was a fortune. A fortune that was hidden in our car, under the seat, without me knowing anything. I sat right there on the cold garage floor, with that envelope in my lap, with those stacks of money in my hands, and I started to cry. It wasn't tears of joy, it was tears of despair, of fear, of confusion. What was happening? What had Walter done? Where had that money come from? My head was spinning. Did he steal it? No, not Walter. He wasn't a thief. He was an honest, hard-working man. But then, where did it come from? Did someone give it to him to keep? Was it someone else's? But why hide it in our car? Why not tell me? And then the worst questions started coming. Questions I didn't want to ask, but couldn't avoid. Was he involved in something wrong? Were all those trips he took not just normal work? Did those papers I found in his pocket, those names, those addresses have to do with this? I stayed there sitting. I don't know how long. It could have been 5 minutes or an hour. I had no notion. I could only look at that money and feel that my life was falling apart, that everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I had, was a lie. I heard a noise. It was the back door of the house opening. Walter had woken up. I heard his footsteps. He was coming. Quickly, I put the stacks back in the envelope. I closed it. I got up. I wiped the tears from my face with the back of my hand. I took a deep breath. I needed to calm down. I needed to confront him. I needed answers. He appeared at the garage door. When he saw me there holding the envelope, his face changed completely. He turned white, his eyes widened, his mouth opened, but no sound came out. I raised the envelope to chest height. My voice came out shaky, but firm. "What is this, Walter?" He didn't answer. He stood there looking at me. I could see his chest rising and falling quickly. He was in panic. "Walter," I asked, "what is this? This money? Where did it come from? Why is it hidden in our car?" He took a step forward, then stopped, ran his hand through his hair, looked around, as if looking for a way out. Barbara, I can explain." "Then explain. Explain where this money came from. There's a fortune here, a fortune hidden, and I didn't know anything about it." My voice was rising. I couldn't control it. I was angry, scared, with such confusion inside me that it felt like I was going to explode. "How much is here, Walter? How much?" He lowered his head. "A lot. A lot is not an answer." "How much?" He sighed. Took a while to answer. "Close to $500,000. I almost fell again. $500,000. That was more money than we earned in years, in many years. How was it possible? 500,000? How? How did you get $500,000 with your salary? He didn't answer. Walter, answer. How did you get this money? He raised his eyes to me, and I saw something I had never seen in him before. Fear. Pure fear and shame and desperation. I can't tell you. That was like a slap in my face. What do you mean you can't tell me? I'm your wife, the mother of your children. There's $500,000 hidden in our car, and you can't tell me? Barbara, please, please leave that there. Forget you saw it. Let me put it back. He reached out to take the envelope. I took a step back. I'm not leaving anything. Either you tell me now where this money came from, or I don't know what I'll do, but I'm not going to pretend I didn't see anything. We stood there staring at each other. The silence was so heavy, it seemed like the air was thick. You could hear the children inside the house watching television, laughing at something, and there we were, husband and wife, with an abyss opening between us. Walter closed his eyes, took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, tears were running down his face. Barbara, you won't understand. Then make me understand. Explain to me. He shook his head. It's not that simple. Walter, for God's sake, talk. Did you steal it? Is that it? Did you steal this money? No, it's not stealing. I'm not a thief. Then what is it? Did you win the lottery and forget to tell me? Barbara, don't do that. Don't be sarcastic. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm desperate. I found $500,000 hidden in our car, and my husband won't explain to me where it came from. How do you want me to react? My voice was getting hysterical. I knew the children could hear, but I couldn't control myself. Walter took another step toward me. This time, I didn't back away. Barbara, listen, just listen. This money I earned working, but it's not the kind of work you're thinking. What kind of work gives you $500,000, Walter? What kind of work do you do hiding from me? He bit his lip, looked at the floor. I do some extra work for some guys, transporting merchandise, things that pay well. My stomach turned. What kind of merchandise? Normal merchandise, not drugs. If that's what you're thinking, it's not drugs. But it's illegal, isn't it? It's smuggling? It's stolen goods? He didn't answer, and his silence was the answer. I felt my legs weaken again. I had to lean on the car. My husband, the father of my children, the man I thought I knew, was involved with crime, with illegal things. For years. How long, Walter? How long have you been doing this? He wiped the tears with the back of his hand. About 4 years. 4 years. 4 years he had been living this double life, and I didn't know anything. Me, who slept next to him every night. Me, who cooked for him, washed his clothes, took care of his children, didn't know anything. And what else didn't you tell me? What else is there that I don't know? Walter lowered his head, and in that moment, in that damned moment, I saw on his face that there was more. There was much more. Walter, there's more, isn't there? It's not just the money, there's something else. He started to cry, really cry, sobbing, his whole body shaking. Barbara, Barbara, forgive me. And it was at that moment that I knew. I knew that my life, my marriage, everything I had built was over. Forgive me. Those 2 words came out of Walter's mouth and fell on my chest like heavy, painful stones. I knew that when someone asks for forgiveness before telling the truth, it's because the truth is going to hurt a lot. Walter, stop crying and tell me everything now. He wiped his face with his shirt sleeve. He took several deep breaths, trying to calm down. I stood there, holding that damned envelope, waiting. My whole body was tense. I felt every muscle contracted as if I were preparing to receive a punch. Barbara, I'm not a driver. I mean, I am, but I do other things. Things that make a lot of money. What things? He swallowed hard. I organize the transport of stolen goods. Goods from hijacked trucks, from warehouses, those things. I know which routes are safe, which drivers from the company are reliable, Where to store the goods? Who to sell to? I'm the leader of it all. I felt the ground disappear from under my feet. Leader. He wasn't just a worker doing wrong side jobs. He was the boss, the mastermind, the brains of the operation. You run a gang? It's not really a gang, Barbara. It's some guys who work with me, who trust me. Walter, that's a gang. You steal. You organize robberies. I don't steal. I never held a gun, never robbed anyone. I just organize the transport. The rest doesn't matter. You're a criminal. You're a crook. The word came out of my mouth like poison. Crook. My husband was a crook. He closed his eyes as if the word had physically hurt him. Barbara, I did this for our family, to give a better life to you, to the children. No, don't put this on me. Don't put this on the children. You did this for you, for ambition. I wanted us to have a better house, a better car, for the children to study at private school. And you think I want that with dirty money, with money from theft? You think I want to raise my children with money that came from crime? He didn't answer. He stood there, head down, defeated. But I knew there was more. I felt it. That forgive me of his had been too big to be just about the illegal money. Walter, is there something else? I know there is. Tell me now. He shook his head. Barbara, leave it like this. It's already bad enough. Tell me, I screamed. I really screamed. I couldn't hold it in. And at that moment I saw the children appear at the door that led from the house to the garage. Michael and Laura, with their eyes wide, scared. Mom, why are you yelling? I quickly wiped the tears. I tried to smile, but it didn't come out right. It's nothing, my son. Go back inside. Go watch your cartoon. Mommy will be right there. But Dad is crying. He's fine. Go back inside. Obey your mother. Michael took Laura's hand and went back to the house. I waited for them to close the door. Then I turned to Walter again. Now you're going to tell me everything, and there's no point trying to hide anything else because I'm going to find out anyway. He ran his hand over his face. He was pale, sweating cold. Barbara, I have another house in another city. The world stopped. I swear. It really stopped. For a second, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what he had just said. What? In Indianapolis. I have a house in Indianapolis, small, but it's where I stay when I'm working, where I store the goods before selling them, where I meet with the guys from the operation. A house. He had a house in another city, an entire life I didn't know about. How long? 3 years. I bought it in '75. 3 years. He had had a second house for 3 years, and I didn't know anything. All those trips he took, those days he spent away, he was there in his house, in his life, away from me. And what else do you have there? What else didn't you tell me? He was silent. A long, heavy, horrible silence. Walter, I was saving money, a lot of money, to start over, far from here. My heart stopped. Start over? What do you mean, start over? He wouldn't look at me. He looked at the floor, at the walls, at anywhere but me. Walter, look at me. Look at me and explain to me what starting over means. He finally raised his eyes, and what I saw there was the end, was the death of everything. I was going to leave, Barbara. I was going to save enough money and was going to leave to California to start a new life, with a new name, new identity, everything new. I felt my legs give way. I leaned on the car hard to keep from collapsing on the floor. And us, and me, and the children? Silence. Walter, and us. You were going to abandon us? I was going to send money every month so you wouldn't go without. Send money. Send money. You think money replaces a father? Replaces a husband? Barbara, I had no choice. The operation was getting too big, too dangerous. Police started investigating. I need to disappear before they catch me. So you were going to disappear and leave us here? Leave your children thinking their father died? That he abandoned them? I was going to explain when they were older. Explain. Explain what? That their father is a crook? That he ran away? That he chose crime over family? I was yelling again, couldn't control it. 8 years of marriage, 8 years believing I had a home, a family, a future. And it was all a lie. Everything. When, Walter? When were you leaving? He took a while to answer. End of the year, December. I was going to save a little more and was leaving in December. December, 6 months. He was going to stay there in my house, sleeping in my bed, eating at my table, playing with our children for another 6 months, knowing he was going to abandon everything, knowing he was going to disappear. You're a monster. A monster. He started crying again. Barbara, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I never wanted it to be like this. Never wanted. You chose every step of this. You chose to get into crime. You chose to lie to me. You chose to have a double life. You chose to plan to abandon us. I was so angry my hands were shaking. I wanted to throw that envelope in his face. I wanted to scream until my throat hurt. I wanted him to feel even just a little bit of the pain I was feeling. But suddenly, something else came to my mind. Something worse, much worse. Walter, is there someone? Is there another woman? He raised his head quickly. No, Barbara, never. I never cheated on you, never. I laughed that bitter way, with no joy at all. Never cheated on me? You cheated on me every day for years. You cheated on me with lies, with secrets, with this double life you had. Isn't that cheating? He lowered his head again. He had nothing to say. And the company, Bennett Trucking, do they know? No, nobody knows. I do everything outside working hours. I use contacts I've made over the years, but the company has nothing to do with it. So you use the honest job as a front so no one suspects. I need a steady job, Barbara, so I don't raise suspicion, so I have an official income. To fool everyone, especially your family. I stood there looking at that man I loved, or thought I loved. Did I really love him? Or did I love the person I thought he was? Because the man in front of me now was a stranger, completely strange. How much do you have saved besides these 500,000 here? He hesitated. Barbara. How much? More than 2 million, hidden in various places, in the Indianapolis house, in bank vaults with fake names, with some trusted guys. 2 million, more than $2 million. A fortune. A fortune he had accumulated stealing, deceiving, lying. And he was going to take it all away. He was going to disappear with everything and leave me here with 2 small children, without explanation, without anything. Were you going to leave something for us from all that money? I was. I was going to leave 500, so you wouldn't have difficulties until I could send more. 500,000. 500,000 of the dirty money you stole. That was your goodbye. That was your way of making up for 8 years of lying. He didn't answer. I looked at the envelope still in my hand. That money there, so much money. Money that could solve so many problems, that could buy a house, that could pay for private school for the children, that could give a comfortable life. But at what price? At what cost? Do you think I want this? Do you think I'm going to take this money and pretend I don't know where it came from? Barbara, use this money. At least this for you and for the children. I want you to be okay. You want us to be okay? Then you shouldn't have done any of this. You should have continued being an honest driver, earning little, but sleeping with a clear conscience. We didn't need a big house, a new car, any of that. We just needed you, the father, the husband, the honest man. My voice broke at the end. Tears ran hot down my face. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stand being there in that garage, looking at that man I didn't know. Who else knows? Who else knows about your life? Nobody. Only the guys who work with me. But they don't know about you, about our family. They think I'm single. Of course, He had erased us. In his criminal life, we didn't exist. We were a secret, a burden, something he was going to leave behind. Walter, I need you to leave here now. He looked at me scared. Barbara, no, don't do this. Get out of my house. Go to your Indianapolis house. Go wherever you want, but get out of here. Barbara, let me explain better. There's nothing more to explain. You told me everything, and there's no explanation that justifies it. There's no excuse. You destroyed everything. Everything. And the children, what are you going to tell them? That question broke me. What was I going to tell Michael and Laura? How was I going to explain that their father was a criminal? That he was going to abandon us? How was I going to destroy the image they had of their father? I don't know. I still don't know. But you're going to leave here now and let me think, let me process all this. Barbara, please leave. He took a step back, wiped his face, looked at me one last time. I saw despair in that look, but I also saw guilt, a lot of guilt. He turned and left. He went into the house, got the car keys that were on the kitchen table. I heard Michael's voice asking, Dad, where are you going? I didn't hear Walter's answer. I only heard the front door opening and closing. Then the sound of the Beatles' engine starting. Then the car leaving, going away. I stood there alone in the garage, with that envelope in my hand, with that damned money, with my life destroyed, with my marriage over, with my heart broken into 1,000 pieces. And then, only then, I collapsed. I sat on the cold floor of that garage and cried. I cried like I had never cried in my life. I cried until I had no more tears. I cried until I felt my chest hurt. I cried for the naive woman I was. I cried for the 8 years I lost believing in a lie. I cried for my children who were going to grow up without a father. I cried for everything that could have been and would never be. I don't know how long I stayed there sitting on that cold floor. It could have been half an hour, it could have been 2 hours. I lost track. I only know that when I finally managed to get up, my legs were numb and the sky was already starting to darken. I went into the house. The children were in the living room. Michael looked at me with those eyes of someone who knows something very bad had happened, but doesn't understand what. Laura was calmer, still too young to understand. Mom, Dad left. Thank you. I swallowed hard. I tried to smile, but I couldn't. No, my son. He had to solve some things. Come here, let's have dinner. I made food. I don't even know what I made. I think it was rice with eggs. I put the children to eat. They ate in silence. I couldn't eat anything. Every time I tried to swallow, I felt the food stuck in my throat. After dinner, I bathed them, put on pajamas, put them to bed. Michael asked when Dad was coming back. I said I didn't know. He insisted. I said Dad was working, that it would take a while. He finally fell asleep. I stayed up all night, sitting in the kitchen, in the dark, looking at that damned envelope on the table. $500,000, a fortune, dirty money, crime money. My head wouldn't stop. I thought about everything, about every moment of the last 8 years, every lie he had told, every time he had left the house saying he was going to work, every trip, every gift he brought, everything was a lie, everything. And the worst of all was that he was going to abandon me, was going to save enough money, and was going to disappear. He was going to leave me and the children here without explanation, without anything, just with that dirty farewell money. The more I thought about it, the more the anger grew inside me. It wasn't just anger at him. It was anger at myself. How did I not notice? How was I so blind, so naive? The signs were all there. The nervousness, the trips, the extra money, the locked doors. Everything was in my face, and I didn't want to see. When the sun started to rise, I had already made my decision. The hardest decision of my life, the decision that was going to change everything forever. I was going to turn him in. I was going to hand over my own husband to the police. Just thinking about it, my stomach turned. But I knew it was the only right thing to do. I couldn't let him continue stealing. I couldn't be an accomplice. I couldn't accept that money and pretend I didn't know where it came from. I had 2 small children. What example was I going to give them if I accepted that? I waited for the children to wake up, gave them breakfast. Then I called my mother. I asked her to come get Michael and Laura because I needed to solve some things. She came, asked if everything was okay. I said yes, that it was just paperwork to resolve. She took the children. When I was alone, I took that envelope, put it inside a bag, changed clothes, put on a navy blue skirt and a white blouse. I tied my hair up, put on lipstick. I wanted to look presentable. I wanted to be strong. I walked to the police station. It was far, more than 20 blocks, but I needed to walk. I needed the time to gather courage, because with each step, a voice in my head screamed, "Go back, don't do this. He's the father of your children. He's your husband." But another stronger voice said, "He's a criminal. He lied. He was going to abandon you. Do the right thing." I arrived at the police station. It was almost 10 in the morning. It was a small town police station. There were 2 policemen in front talking. They looked at me when I entered. "Good morning, ma'am. Can I help you?" My voice came out shaky. I need to speak with the sheriff. It's urgent." They took me to a room, a small room, with a desk, 2 chairs, a fan that made noise. The sheriff was a man about 50 years old, big belly, thick mustache. He asked me to sit. "What's the problem, Mrs.?" "My name is Barbara." "What's the problem, Mrs. Barbara?" I took a deep breath. It was now. There was no going back. "I came to report my husband." He raised his eyebrows. "Report? Why? Does he beat you?" "No, it's not that. He's involved with cargo theft. He organizes it. He's the leader of the operation." The sheriff leaned forward. Suddenly he was paying a lot of attention. "Are you sure of what you're saying? This is a serious accusation." "I'm sure, and I have proof." I put the bag on the table, took the envelope out, opened it, showed the money. "This here is $500,000 that I found hidden in his car. He confessed to me yesterday. He said he's been doing this for 4 years, that he has a house in Indianapolis where he stores the stolen goods, that he has more than $2 million hidden, that he was going to run away at the end of the year and abandon me." The sheriff picked up the envelope, opened it, looked at the money, looked at me. "Do you know what you're doing? If we investigate and it's true, your husband will go to jail. He'll be there for years." "I know." "And you and your children? You'll be without support. Have you thought about that?" "I thought about it all night, but I can't be an accomplice to crime. I can't accept stolen money. I can't let him continue doing this." The sheriff looked at me for a long time, then nodded. "You're a brave woman, Mrs. Barbara. Very brave." I didn't feel brave. I felt destroyed, but I said nothing. The sheriff called other policemen. They started asking me questions, many questions. Walter's full name, where he worked, address of the Indianapolis house, names of people he knew, routes he took, schedules, everything. I told everything I knew, everything Walter had told me. They wrote everything down, asked more questions. I answered. We were there for hours. In the end, the sheriff said they were going to investigate, that they were going to set up an operation to catch Walter and the others involved, that it would take a few days, maybe weeks, and he asked me not to tell anyone, to act normal, not to alert Walter. I left the police station with weak legs. I went to get the children at my mother's house. She noticed I was different, but didn't ask anything. I took Michael and Laura home. Walter didn't come back that day, or the next, or the next. A week went by and he didn't show up, didn't call, didn't send news, disappeared. The children asked about him every day. I said he was working far away, that it would take a while to come back. Michael didn't believe much, but didn't insist. I lived in a state of constant anguish, waiting for the police to act, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for some news. I didn't sleep right, didn't eat right. I lost 11 pounds in 2 weeks. And finally, on a Thursday morning, they knocked on my door. It was 2 policemen. "Mrs. Barbara, we arrested your husband last night. He's in the county jail. We arrested 6 more people with him. We seized 3 trucks of stolen goods. You'll need to give official testimony." I felt my legs weaken. He had been arrested. He was in jail. It was real. It had really happened. "The children, they can't know yet." "You're going to have to tell them, Mrs. Barbara. This is going to be in the newspaper. It's going to be news. Small town, everyone's going to know." He was right. The next day, it was on the front page of the local newspaper. Cargo theft ring dismantled. Bennett trucking driver was the leader. There was a photo of Walter being taken away in handcuffs. There was the whole story, how much money had been seized, how much goods, the names of the others involved. And the worst, my name was there. The report was made by the wife of the accused, who found money hidden in the family vehicle. When I read that, I felt my world collapse again. My name was there. Everyone was going to know. Everyone was going to know it was me who reported him, who turned in my own husband. And that's exactly what happened. The next day, when I went out to buy bread, the neighbors looked at me differently, whispered when I passed. One of them spit on the ground when she saw me. At Mr. Johnson's store, where I always bought on credit at the end of the month, he told me he couldn't give me credit anymore, that he didn't trust anymore, that he didn't want to associate with a criminal's family. I took the children to school. The principal called me aside. He said he was receiving complaints from parents, that they didn't want their children near mine, that they thought it was a bad influence. Michael came home that day with a black eye. He had fought at school. The boys had called his father a thief. He had gone after them. He got beaten up by 3. I sat with him and Laura that night. I told them the truth, that their father was in jail, that he had done wrong things, that he was going to be far away for a long time. Michael looked at me with hatred. "You're the one who turned him in, weren't you?" I couldn't lie. "Yes." He got up, yelled, "I hate you. You destroyed our family. I hate you." And he ran to his room. He slammed the door. He stayed locked in there crying. Laura didn't understand well. She only knew that her father had gone away, that he wasn't coming back soon. In the following days, everything got worse. People avoided me on the street. Some cursed at me, called me a traitor, a snitch, a heartless woman. They said I should have kept quiet, that I should have enjoyed the money. Bennett Trucking sent me a lawyer. They said they were going to sue, that the company's name had been tarnished, that it was Walter's fault, but that I was also responsible for having reported publicly. I lost all my friends. The women I had known since I was young didn't talk to me anymore. At church, people moved away when I sat in the pew. I had to take the children out of school. The prejudice was too great. They cried every day. They had no more friends. They were the thief's children. And the money ran out quickly. That money I had saved from the last few months was gone on food, rent, bills. In 2 months, I had nothing. I went looking for work. Nobody hired me. "You're Walter's wife, aren't you? The one who turned in her husband?" "No, sorry, the position has been filled." I tried everywhere. Factories, stores, cleaning houses. Nothing. Nobody wanted me. My mother helped as she could, brought food, paid some bills, but she herself didn't have much. My father had already passed away. She lived on the small pension she received. 3 months after Walter's arrest, I received notification of divorce proceedings. He was asking for divorce from jail through a lawyer. I read that paper and felt nothing, neither pain, nor anger, nor sadness. I was empty inside, completely empty. The divorce process was quick. He had nothing to divide. The Indianapolis house had been seized, the money seized, the car seized. Nothing was left, absolutely nothing. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. 15 years. Me and the children were left alone, without our own house, without money, without support. In the town where I was born, where I grew up, I was an outcast, and excluded, the woman who had betrayed her husband, the snitch. There were nights I cried until I couldn't anymore. Nights I thought about giving up, about taking the children and going far away, starting over somewhere else where nobody knew us. There were nights I asked myself if I had done the right thing, if it wouldn't have been better to stay quiet, take that money and try to live with the guilt. At least the children wouldn't be suffering so much. But deep down, I knew I had done the right thing. Because it wasn't about money, it was about dignity. It was about looking in the mirror and being able to recognize myself. It was about teaching my children that there is right and wrong, that no matter how much it hurts, we choose the right thing, even if the price is losing everything. The first months after Walter's arrest were the hardest of my life. And look, I had already been through a lot, but that phase was rock bottom. I couldn't get a job anywhere. I knocked on doors, left my name, said I needed to work, that I had 2 children to raise. But it was always the same thing. People looked at me, recognized who I was, and said they had no vacancy or that they would call me, but they never called. There was one time I went to a shoe factory on the outskirts of town. They needed a seamstress. I knew how to sew. My mother had taught me since I was little. I got there, talked to the manager. He seemed interested. Then he asked my full name. When I said Barbara Mitchell, he frowned. Mitchell. Are you related to Walter Mitchell, the one who was arrested? My heart tightened. I'm his ex-wife. His face changed immediately. Ah, I see. Look, Mrs. Barbara, you seem like good people, but we can't hire you. The other employees wouldn't like it. You understand, right? Understand. Understand what? That I was guilty of my ex-husband's crime, that I deserved to be punished for having done the right thing. But I didn't argue. I just thanked him and left. I cried the whole way back home. The rent was overdue. The landlord showed up one August morning in 1978, knocking on the door, saying that if I didn't pay by the end of the month, I would have to leave. I begged. I said I would get the money. He gave me another 15 days. My mother helped with what she could. She brought rice, beans, pasta, sometimes a piece of meat, but she herself was living tight. The pension she received was barely enough for her, and I saw the sacrifice she made to help me. I saw it and felt even worse. The children felt everything. Michael, who was 8 years old, had become resentful of me. He barely spoke. When he spoke, it was with anger, with hurt. He didn't understand why I had done that. To him, I had destroyed the family. I had taken his father away. Laura was younger, only 5 years old. She missed her father, but in a different way. She asked when he was coming back, when we were going to visit him, and I didn't know what to answer. I didn't have the courage to take the children to jail. I didn't want them to see their father like that, behind bars. September came and I hadn't been able to pay the rent. The landlord showed up with an eviction notice. He said I had a week to leave. That night, sitting in the kitchen, looking at that paper, I thought about giving up. I thought about taking the children, going to the train tracks, and ending it all, ending all that suffering at once. But then I looked at the bedroom where Michael and Laura were sleeping. I heard their breathing and thought, they need me. No matter how hard it is, they need me. I went to talk to my mother. I told her I was going to lose the house. She was silent for a while. Then she said we could go live with her. It was a small house, only 2 bedrooms, but there was space. I accepted. I had no choice. We moved to my mother's house one Sunday afternoon. We had almost nothing to take. Some clothes, some dishes, the children's toys. A neighbor lent us a cart and took our things. It was humiliating. I was 30 years old and was going back to my mother's house with 2 children, without a husband, without money, without anything. But I swallowed my pride because it wasn't about me. It was about surviving. At my mother's house, things got a little easier financially. We shared expenses, but it was still tight, and I was still without a job. It was my mother who got an opportunity for me. She knew a lady named Mrs. Eleanor who lived in a more distant neighborhood. Mrs. Eleanor needed someone to clean twice a week. My mother told her about me. Mrs. Eleanor agreed to give me a chance. I started working there in October 1978. I earned little, but it was something. I cleaned her house from 7 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. I washed, ironed, cooked, did everything she asked. Mrs. Eleanor was a good woman. She knew my story, but didn't judge me. She said she admired my courage, that I had done the right thing. Those words from her meant a lot, because I was surrounded by people who condemned me. With the money from cleaning, I started to help more with household expenses. It wasn't much, but it helped. And gradually, I got other jobs, more houses to clean, one here, another there, always in more distant neighborhoods, where people didn't know me as much. In 1979, a year after everything had happened, I was working in 4 different houses, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, I left to wash clothes at home, iron, take care of the children. Saturday and Sunday, I tried to rest, but there was always something to do. Michael was still angry with me, but gradually, very gradually, he began to understand. He saw how much I worked, how much I sacrificed, and he also saw that his father didn't give news, didn't send letters, didn't ask about them, nothing. In 1980, 2 important things happened. First, I managed to enroll the children in a public school in another neighborhood, a school where nobody knew our story. There they could just be normal children. Michael started making friends again. Laura too. Second, one of the ladies I worked for, Mrs. Carmen, taught me to sew better. She had an old sewing machine and let me use it. I started making clothes for the children. Then I started making them for others. I mended neighbors' clothes, hemmed pants, those things. It was more money. The years went by, 1981, 1982, 1983. Life continued to be difficult, but it was no longer that desperation of the beginning. We had a roof, we had food on the table, the children were studying. It was little, but it was ours. It was honest. The prejudice decreased over time. People forgot, or at least stopped talking to my face. I still felt the looks, the whispered comments, but I learned to ignore them. I learned to walk with my head held high. In 1985, I managed to save enough money to buy my own sewing machine. A used machine, old, but it worked. I started taking more sewing work. I made party dresses, children's clothes, school uniforms. Michael was 15 years old. He had become a serious, responsible boy. He helped at home, took care of his sister, studied. He had stopped blaming me. One day, I think in 1986, he came to talk to me. "Mom, I know I was mean to you. When I was little, I didn't understand. But now I understand. You did the right thing, and I'm proud of you." I cried when he said that. I cried with relief, because those words from him healed a wound I had carried for years. Laura had also grown up. She was a sweet girl, studious, got good grades at school, dreamed of being a teacher, and I did everything for her to succeed, for both of them to succeed. In 1990, Michael finished high school. He passed a civil service exam to work at the post office. He started earning his own money. He helped at home, but also saved for himself. He had plans, wanted to go to college for business administration. Laura was in high school, also a good student, also had plans. I looked at them and saw that it had been worth it. All the suffering, all the struggle, all the humiliation. It had been worth it because they were good people, honest people, people who knew the difference between right and wrong. In 1993, 15 years after being arrested, Walter got out of jail. I knew because Michael received a letter from him. He wanted to see his children, wanted to apologize, wanted to try to rebuild something. Michael and Laura went to visit him. I didn't go. I had nothing more to say to him. That man was a stranger to me. They came back from that visit quiet. Michael told me that his father looked old, worn out, that he had cried, that he had asked for forgiveness, that he had said he regretted everything, that he wanted to start over. But it was too late. His children had already grown up without him, had already learned to live without a father, had already built their lives. He had lost all that, had lost the chance to see his children grow up, to be present, to be a father. And that wasn't my fault. It was his choice. He chose crime. He chose the lie. He chose to abandon us, and now he was reaping what he had sown. Walter tried to get close to his children again, but didn't succeed much. They respected him, but didn't have that connection that a father and son should have, because he hadn't been there, he hadn't been a father. He died in 2005, heart attack. Michael and Laura went to the funeral. I didn't go. Today in 2025, I'm 75 years old. Michael is 55. He's a post office manager, married, has 3 children. Laura is 52. She's an elementary school teacher, as she always dreamed. Also married, has 2 children. They visit me every week, bring the grandchildren. We have lunch together, talk, laugh. They always thank me. They say I'm an example, that they admire my strength, my courage. And you know what makes me happiest? My grandchildren. They're growing up in an honest family, in a family where values are taught, where they learn that money is not worth more than dignity, that no matter how hard it is, we choose the right thing. I look back and see the years of struggle, the years of suffering, the nights I cried, the days I had nothing to eat, the prejudice, the loneliness, the pain. But I also see victory because I won. I didn't win by getting rich. I didn't win by having an easy life. But I won by raising 2 good children. I won by keeping my dignity. I won by being able to look in the mirror and recognize myself. That envelope with $500,000 could have solved my problems at that time. It could have bought a house. It could have given a comfortable life to the children. But at what price? At what cost to my soul? I preferred honest poverty. I preferred to work from sunrise to sunset. I preferred to go through hardship because I knew that one day in the future, I would be able to look back and feel proud. Proud of having done the right thing, of having chosen the hard path, but the right path. And today I feel that pride. Today I know it was worth it. Every tear, every sacrifice, every moment of pain. It was worth it because money runs out, the house, the car, material things, all that passes. But dignity stays, a clear conscience, nobody takes that away. I sleep well every night. I don't have nightmares. I don't have guilt. I'm not afraid to look at people because I know who I am. I know the choices I made, and I have peace. Walter lived tormented. I saw that at his funeral. I saw it on the faces of the people who spoke. He never had peace after he got out of prison. He never managed to rebuild his life. He never managed to forgive himself. And I don't feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the man he could have been and wasn't. I feel sorry for the years he wasted. But I don't feel sorry for the consequences he faced, because they were consequences of his choices. I want to leave a message for you who are listening to me. For you who may be going through some difficult situation, some choice you need to make between what's right and what's easy. Choose the right thing always, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how hard it is. Choose the right thing, because in the end, in the very end, the only thing we take with us is who we are. And there's no money in the world that pays for the peace of mind of knowing you did what was right. I could have kept that money. I could have pretended I didn't know anything. I could have lived in a beautiful house with a new car, with everything money buys, but I wouldn't be me. I would be a lie, an accomplice. And my children, what example would I give them? That it's okay to steal, as long as you don't get caught, that money matters more than honesty? No, I chose differently. And yes, it was hard, very hard. But today, I reap the fruits of that choice. Today, I have children who respect me, grandchildren who admire me, a simple life, but honest, a clean conscience. And that, my people, that is priceless. So don't give up. When life gets tough, when it seems like there's no way out, don't give up. Keep fighting. Keep choosing the right thing, because victory comes. It may take time, it may be difficult, but it comes. And when it comes, it will be sweeter than any easy victory, because you'll know you deserved it, that you fought, that you didn't give up. I didn't give up. And today I'm here at 75 years old telling this story to you. A story of pain, but also of overcoming. A story of loss, but also of victory. A story of suffering, but also of dignity. And if this story can inspire even one person to make the right choice, to not give up, to keep fighting, then it was worth telling. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If you liked it, if this story touched you in some way, leave your like down below. Subscribe to the channel to hear more stories like this, and share it with someone you think needs to hear this message. And tell me in the comments what was the hardest choice you ever had to make. Tell me. I love reading your comments, knowing I'm not alone on this journey. A kiss to each and every one of you, and remember, always choose the right thing, always, until the next story.